Everybody, welcome to June. Welcome to the greatest Kiwanis club in the world. If you don't mind, go ahead and rise. I'm going to invite Greg Silver to the podium to do our invocation today and then lead us in the pledge.
Oops. Thank you very much, Trina.
Good job navigating that.
It's my fault entirely. So before I begin, thanks to Kelly, we have some.
Okay, that mic. Get close to the mic.
Thanks to Kelly. Oh yeah, that's my always. Thanks to Kelly, I have some information first about what I'm going to read.
Okay, the mic.
Your Grand Old Flag was written by George M. Cohan for his 1906 stage musical George Washington Jr. The song was introduced to the public in the play's first act on opening night. I'm sure some of you were there. February 6, 1906, in New York's Herald Square. The original lyrics, however, were changed from "It's a grand old rag" to "A grand old flag." So we've sung this, I don't know how many times. I've never really read it like this, but here we go. This is the implication. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying fat flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true, neath the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. But should all old acquaintance be forgot, we know that one, keep your eye on the grand old flag, share some history through this flag song. That's all. We're going to do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Greg. Yes, as he said, please be seated. First and foremost, I would like to invite Haley Lavarne. She's Lieutenant Governor for Key Club for the Rose Division, to the podium, say a few words if you don't mind. I am thrilled about what our young people, our high schoolers, our college students are doing, the initiative that they're taking, and just how they're doing things that they don't know they're not supposed to be able to do. So I would love to hear what you guys are up to. Please, welcome.
Hello everyone. So I just want to say that I hope you're having an amazing morning so far. I definitely am. And I want to say thank you for having me. Thank you, all of you, for all that you do. I greatly appreciate it. I've been involved in Key Club for a little over a year now. And I can say that it's definitely been one of the best things that I've ever done. Currently I serve as the Lieutenant Governor of the Rose Division, which means that I'm responsible for focusing on communication especially, and it's definitely made me like more of, I guess, an outgoing and social person for sure. So a little bit more about my role. So I serve as an LTG on the Indiana District Board, which definitely was a big step for me to take, considering that I had only been involved in Key Club for a little while. But it's definitely been one of the best things ever. I'm also one of the chairs on the Kiwanis Connections and Family Committee, which means that I am, well, that's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm looking forward to making more connections with Kiwanians, such as yourselves, and getting to know a lot of you more on like a personal level. So thank you so much for having me. And throughout this upcoming year especially, I'm so excited to start partaking in my LTG projects, which each LTG is tasked with coming up with their own unique, like, individual project. And I'm planning on taking inspiration from anti-smoking nonprofit such as Key Club, and coming up with like ways to raise funds and collect, I guess, like necessities that they need. And I'm trying to kind of like make a difference in my community. That's one of, I guess, the biggest things that I'm hoping to kind of like do, I guess, within Key Club. So I'm so excited to serve this upcoming service year. my community, I hope, is going to definitely become better. Yeah, I'm so excited to also kind of like socialize more amongst with not only my peers, but with more key clubbers around and Kiwanians too. So thank you so much for having me. Have a blessed day.
So at upcoming meetings, we're going to pass an ashtray instead of passing a hat and see if we can raise some funds for our project. So hold me to that. Roger, do you want to talk about the upcoming lunch bunch? Or you want me to do a reminder?
Just tell.
Awesome. Thought maybe we could help
Give me
you.
the steps.
We could get all your steps in. The next monthly lunch bunch is this coming Monday, June 5th, and then again on the third Monday in July. So there's going to be a little gap, so go to both so you can see folks.
Summertime.
Darn summer. It's a great way to visit with Kiwanians if you're not able to make the Thursday lunches, or even if you are able to make the Thursday lunches. So Monday at Iozo's, noon? 11:30. See, I'm wrong frequently. My husband tells me so. Our friends at the Perry Township Kiwanis Club have invited us to participate in their golf outing, June 22nd at the Smock Golf Course. You'll find flyers at the back table. If you're able to, or just want to go play in the sun, please join them. Huge thank you to Mary Bulk for agreeing to serve as the president for the upcoming year, the 2023-24 club year. And
It wasn't voted down.
Nope. Sorry. And likewise, not being voted down, Eric Rowland has agreed to serve as president following Mary's term. Also, a huge thank you to Art Kudroff and Steve Farrow, who will begin their 3-year terms, joining Roger as treasurer, Jackie Clancy, Laura Holloway, Chuck Otterman, and Wendy Paddock on the board of directors as well. Much appreciation to Nancy Ulrichs, Bill Du Bois, and Duke Haddad, whose terms will round out at the end of September. So they are far from being done. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Voting to approve the slate is open. Let Kelly know if you need any assistance. You should have seen the voting slate in your email late last week, sometime last week. All my days are running together, I apologize. Next week, Exodus Refugee will visit us here at the Columbia Club on Thursday, June 8th. They'll provide a recap on the $11,000 grant for youth programming that we provided them last year, as well as marking the World Refugee Day. The Strawberry Fest is also going to be taking place on Thursday. So 2 reminders: bring cash, get strawberries and shortcake, and bring them up here. They make a tremendous appetizer. Plus, for adults, we get to eat dessert first. This is, why we work so hard as kids. But thinking about parking, Circle Center Mall, the Salesforce Garage, off of Pennsylvania, the circle will be a little bit congested. So add some extra time, stand in line, get your strawberries, come up here, help all sorts of great causes throughout the day. On June 15th, we'll avoid some downtown traffic and visit with Anna Welchel from the Indiana State Fairgrounds. She'll join us on Zoom. There's a lot of exciting updates and renovations happening throughout the fairgrounds, and a tremendous theme for this year's fair that she'll talk to us about. And then we'll wrap up the month back here at the Columbia Club on the 29th. Stephanie Wells from the Indiana Fiscal Policy Institute will be joining us. She's happy to take direction on what topics we want to hear about. So if there's something you'd like her to dig into, please let me know. Policy, legislation, all of that is her wheelhouse. You need to sign up for online sessions for the Kiwanis International Convention. You may do so. If you need help, let me know. I think that is the end of our robust announcements. We have a lot going on. Very much appreciate you guys being part of that. Without further ado, I'd like to turn the mic over to Steve Farrow to introduce today's guest.
Thanks, Trina. Oh, it's nice to be upstairs again. Good crowd today. I want to introduce Michael Green, and I have some notes from Kelly and from Michael on his background. I've known Michael a couple of years now, maybe not quite 2 years. Michael's the CEO and founder of Flags for Good, a company that not only makes flags it believes in, but it donates a portion of each sale to a relevant cause or charity. Michael used to be the Assistant Athletic Director of Branding, Digital, and Social Media for Texas A&M Athletics. And I think during the pandemic, while lots of people were sitting at home wondering what they were going to do, Michael was thinking about starting a business. And he did. And it's been very exciting to see. I'm not going to tell you about the business. I want Michael to do that. But it's really exciting to see when an entrepreneur starts a business and it's successful, and he's combined business acumen with passion. And I think he's, if not last year, this year, crossing $1 million in sales, which is incredible for a small business. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Michael and let him tell you about Flags for Good.
Thank you so much. I didn't plan on starting with this, but since we did the pledge, I was thinking about the pledge. The Pledge of Allegiance was started in 1892, I believe, and it was kind of halfway a ploy to sell flags to schools. And so, under God was added in the 1950s, so that's a very recent addition to the pledge. It was thought to help fight communism was the reason it was added. So, that to say, I like looking at the things that we hold sacred, like flags and pageantry, and just taking a zoom out and looking at it completely objectively. And so, disclaimer before we talk, feel free to disagree with me on my views or anything that I say, because when we talk about symbols as powerful as flags, they mean something different to each one of us, because in the end, it's a flag, it's a piece of cloth. We don't actually care that much about the piece of cloth. What we care about is what it represents to you in your brain and your heart, and that's completely subjective to each one of us. So we're going to be exploring a lot of those different themes, but I wanted to start with that because sometimes as a lot of people think they don't care about flags, and then you start talking about them, and then people get real heated real quick. So that's totally fine. We're here for that today. I'm gonna take this out and just kind of go mobile. All right, cool. So, like Steve said, I'm Michael Green. Have a history at Texas A&M in athletics as well, and that might come up a little bit later on. But yeah, in 2020, I was a few things happened that spurred on the creation of Flags for Good. I did a TEDx talk at Texas A&M that during the pandemic got picked up by TED because they obviously couldn't have a conference. And so that talk went real wide, and they said, hey, do you have a link to send people to after they watch your talk? And I was like, no, I don't. And so I was like, what should I do? And at the same time, the Black Lives Matter movement had happened, and I was watching this, sitting in my couch, like, I want to do something, I want to help, but we're in the middle of a pandemic. And I kind of saw the juxtaposition in the year 2020 where one side of the political spectrum had a lot of flags. And when you look at the BLM protests in the beginning, there weren't that many flags. Everybody had cardboard signs, or they had made their own, whatever, poster board. And so I thought, well, you know what if I could let my passion for flags meet this moment, and I could make flags for the Black Lives Matter movement, I could donate money to it, and that's how I could help. And that was my 2-week pandemic project that I thought, we'll be back to work in 2 weeks. It never stopped, and we grew into all kinds of different causes. LGBTQ pride is one of our largest sectors of what we sell. So that's kind of the history of Flags for Good. Quit my job a year later, and we basically only make flags that we believe in. and then we donate a portion to any relevant charity. So that includes a lot of things that you would expect, like American flags, state flags. Well, we only make the good state flags. We don't make the ugly ones. And city flags as well. So we can talk more about that later. But today is June 1st. One of the reasons I wanted to come speak on June 1st is it's Pride Month. So that's you're going to see a ton of pride flags around Indy and around the world. And also, June 14th is Flag Day. So June is just a flag month. And so I was like, this is where it fits. So most of you will probably see hundreds and hundreds of flags per day, and you don't think about them at all. They just come in and out of your eyes, and you never think about them. But I'm hoping by the end of this talk, you can start thinking about flags a little bit of the way I think about them. And the two ways that I really like to think about them are in a functional way, as functional pieces of design, as well as deep, powerful pieces of identity. And so they serve both purposes. So we're going to start with not a flag, and we're going to start with a banana. So can someone tell me why a banana is one of the most beautifully and perfectly designed things?
It's functional.
It's functional in what way?
You can peel it and
Okay.
eat it on the go.
So yeah, the packaging allows you to hold on to it, not get your hands dirty as you're eating it. That's great.
It has a peel.
It has a peel. I like it. I like it. That was so good. What was that? Smiling. Oh, sure. Yeah, it's a bright color. It's a nice little shape. Something about the color, though.
You know exactly what it is.
Sure, you know exactly what it is. But also, the packaging changes color to tell you when it's good, when it's bad. Like, wouldn't it be great if all products had that type of functionality on their packaging? So, a banana is a functional thing when you think about it in terms of its function. Bad design, we see it all day, every day, and you can kind of see it like this. We've all had experiences with doors where you don't know whether you need to push or pull, and then they have to put a label on the door to tell you what it is. That's poor design. A door, when you walk up to it, you should immediately know what you need to do with it because of the design of the handles themselves. And so design is all about thinking about the user and the human who's going to be using it and making it to where you don't need any sort of language. Because if you're not from an English-speaking country, that means nothing to you, right? Airports are great examples of great design where you can walk around, not speak the language, and find bathrooms and your gate and all that stuff. So starting your brain in the design thinking realm, then you can start looking at flags as, oh, these are functional pieces of design. So flags are communication. Design is communication. So I can speak to you with my voice, I can speak to you with my hands, and I can speak to you with flags. Like this flag is telling those drivers something, and it's designed for the specific purpose. They're going extremely fast. That flag can't have the word go on it. They're not going to be able to read it. I mean, flags are actually function within design constraints. And so this is just one example. And so because of the design constraints that flags really were born out of, which was when you're on the ocean in 1600 and you see a ship over there and you're like, well, who is that? You need a flag that is easily identifiable from a very far distance away. And it needs to be simple enough to where you can identify it and figure out friend or foe or whatever. So we in the North American Vexillological Association, which is just a group of nerds like me, there are 5 rules of flag design that can really tell you how to make a good flag. Obviously, keep it simple. That's a functional thing. If it's too detailed and there's no wind, then you're not going to know what the heck that is. Use meaningful symbolism. I put the Indy flag up there, which we'll talk about here in a second. The Washington, D.C. flag is made from George Washington's coat of arms, so it tells a story. Simple colors, not too many. No words or lettering or seals. That is the biggest rule to me. That's not a good flag. If you have to put the word on the flag to tell you what it is, it's the same way you have to label a door. If you have to tell you what it is with words, then you've already failed as a design. And then be distinctive or related. So I have Colorado's flag there with Denver's flag there, and you can kind of see Denver fits within Colorado, and we'll talk a lot about that. But before we go too deep into that, I thought let's start with something pertinent to all of you in this room. We'll talk about Indianapolis. So I just moved here less than 2 years ago, so I am new to this city, but I, of course, first thing, dug into the history of the Indianapolis flag. Indianapolis has had 3 flags in its history. The first one, no one's ever seen before. This is all I can find with it. It's 1911. This, I guess, is the Indy Star. They describe it, they don't show it. And it's so funny. What happened was they revealed it on July 4th, 1911, but President Taft was in town, so everyone just went to that event, and no one came to this event, and that was the last this flag has ever been talked about. So I did the work. I read this article, and I tried my best to actually make a representation of what this flag was, and that is what the Indianapolis flag, the first Indianapolis flag probably was, according to what they described. But again, that's never been seen. The second one was around. It was designed in 1915, just a few years later. And you can see they're starting to reference the city plan with the circle and the streets coming out of it. But this flag, again, was just not great. It's got a very detailed seal. Really hard to reproduce back then, obviously. So this flag was actually never produced until 1962. So it had like a 40 to 50 year span where it was the flag, but there were no physical flags anywhere. So again, not great. So then in 1962, the city decided, hey, we need a great flag. We need something we can all be proud of. They had a contest, and this reached the ears of Lauren Dunlap, who was a art professor at Herron School of Design used to be on 10th Street. He forced all of his students to enter the design as a school project, because it's like, cool, you don't have to think of curriculum. One of those students was 18-year-old Roger Gohl, and he designed the Indianapolis flag that we see today. So when I moved to Indianapolis, I was doing all this research, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool to talk to Roger. Somehow found his number. I still don't know how I did it. Called him. We had a 2-hour-long conversation after I convinced him that I wasn't a telemarketer. So after our one conversation, he lives in California. He hasn't been back to Indianapolis in 50 years. But he said, hey, I found the original flag. Do you want it? And I was like, Roger, I really appreciate it. That belongs in a museum. Please don't put that in the mail. And he's like, I already put it in the mail. And I was like, so I was freaking out for about a week, but then I got this package. So I haven't shown this to many people. I figured, why not show it to y'all since it matters? But he sent all of the provenance, all of the proof of what it was. And then this right here, this is the original Indianapolis flag that Roger designed for that school project. Now, you will notice something. The circle is not centered in this design. He purposefully made it look like a Nordic cross, like Norway or Sweden. And when he won the contest, he went to lunch with the mayor. That was the last he thought of it, truly. I think he was in Bloomington at the time, and then came back to Indy like a year or two later, saw the flag flying over the State House and noticed that they moved it to the center and didn't tell him. And so, but he was fine with it. He was like, yeah, it's still good. So there you go. That's the original flag. I'll have it over here if you guys want to see it a little bit later. But yeah, so there's the history of the Indianapolis flag. And then before we go any deeper, I wanted to just touch on the Indiana flag that you all have on your tables. Indiana is such an interesting state as I was doing the research about this. For the first 100 years of Indiana being a state, there was no official flag. Like a lot of flags, it was started by the Daughters of the American Revolution. They went to a conference, they saw, well, all the other states have flags, we should have one. So they started a contest. When they came back from that conference, they offered $100 as a reward, which was big back then. This is in 1914. And this guy, Paul Hadley from Mooresville, right? You've driven through Mooresville? Yeah. Oh, they are very proud that they are the home of the Indiana flag. You will see when you drive through. So yeah, Paul Hadley entered a bunch of different submissions, And he won first, second, third, and all of the honorable mentions. So he clean sweep of the contest. Yeah, but apparently when it was announced, really was no fervor. Nobody really cared. And so, in 1920, a local newspaper said, probably not one person in 1,000 knows what the state flag is after it was adopted. Here is the original flag. Now, it's over in the Indianapolis or Indiana Historical Society. You will notice something, that there is no word Indiana, in the flag. And that was good, because we all know that's good flag design. No words on flags, right? They, as they were passing this flag to be the official one, the legislature, I guess, wasn't told the flag design rules. And they said, oh, no, we need the word Indiana in there. And of course, as legislatures do, it's like, well, it's either this thing fails or we give them what they want. And so that is why the word Indiana is just shoved real small in there, because Paul was like, ugh, fine, and did it anyway. So, of course, flags for good. We only sell good flags, so we sell the original. We don't put the word Indiana in there. It's unnecessary, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad we agree on that. That's, if you leave this room, just know, no words on flags. That's the rule. Okay, so flags as functional design. We can now understand that. But I think the more interesting topic is flags as pieces of identity. Because, like I said, flags are just pieces of cloth. They really don't mean anything on their face. They only mean what we as humans assign them to mean, and the emotions that we feel around them are completely within ourselves. I start every one of my talks with this quote because I think it beautifully describes what I'm talking about. I come from a graphic design background, so I always think in this way as branding, and flags truly are brands. They're just like logos. Wally Olins is one of my favorite designers, and he said, people want to belong, and they want to display symbols of belonging. That's a human core thing that all of us feel. We are a tribal being, right? We want to belong to something larger than ourselves, and then we want to express that belonging to anyone who sees us, right? It's part of communication. When you see me, my clothes, everything is telling you something about me before I even say a word to you. And so we as humans are always expressing our identities in some way, shape, or form. And that's why I think flags are so incredibly beautiful and interesting, is that they're just pieces of cloth, but they can make us kill each other. They can make us swell with pride. They can make us burn with hatred. You know, they're just cloth, but they can do some really, really powerful things. I'm going to cycle through some of these images, and I want you to get in touch with your emotions in here. Just like, as I'm cycling through, just think, how did I feel the moment that slide hit? And sometimes you won't feel anything. Sometimes you'll feel something, so there's a lot of them. There's that one. Oh, did I break it? That was my bad. I touched a cord. Come back. No. It'll come back in a second. This was a good one, too. You're not going to come back for me? Maybe. Heyo. One second. Well, that's the other one. We'll get there. And we're back. Okay. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of this one recently. Cool. So, I love this. I love ending on this image because I think it's a beautiful juxtaposition of the American flag on another heavenly body, right? What does that flag mean when you're standing on the moon? Like, think about it, right? Yes, this person is an American. I guess American tax dollars put that man there. But in the end, was this an achievement for America, or was this an achievement for humanity, right? Is somebody from Italy looking at this photo going to feel less proud of humans' achievement of making it to the moon? Are they going to feel something different about America? So there's no right answers there, but it's just the things that I think about when I see, okay, this is a very powerful thing to do. Trigger warning. This one's going to probably cause you some emotion, but I think it was definitely designed to do so. So I'm sure, hopefully, all of us felt negative emotions when this came up. Very powerful symbol, and they've done studies on children who they've shown this image to them and asked them how they feel, and they've not been exposed to much. And they also feel a negative emotion. This is the power of design and what design can do. But Hitler knew the power of flags. He knew how they can be used to unify and divide. And I know some of you watched my TEDx talk about this whole topic. But flags have the power to unite groups of people around a certain cause, and they also have the power to exclude a group of people and make them feel unwelcome, unwanted. They are weapons, they're double-edged swords, Hitler said that in Mein Kampf. He said, the new flag should be effective as a large poster. So he understood good graphic design. Before Nava wrote those flag design rules, Hitler knew the flag has to be simple because reproducibility, repetition, those types of things can actually do very powerful things when you're trying to cause awakening of interest in a movement, which is exactly what he did. So, the American flag, I think some of you have already seen this. All of us feel something for the American flag, I would hope. We see it all the time. This is a piece of art by Dred Scott, who put the American flag on the ground. Take a second and just, how do you feel about this, right? Apparently that's against the rules, right? And he invited people in this art gallery to walk up and stand on the flag and journal how they felt about the experience of doing so in this journal, and then there was also something for them to read right there. However you feel about this piece of art is fine. I think one of the most interesting things written in that journal to me was, someone said, why are we so okay looking at humans, homeless people, lying on the ground in the street? But we're so torn up seeing a flag lying on the ground. And that's really when I like to take that step back and go, this only makes you feel negative emotions because you've been told to, right? There's nothing inherently wrong with this. And I think other countries treat their nationalism and their national identity symbols differently than us. But I think Dred Scott did a great job on this piece of art, just invoking the thought of what could, why do we feel the way we do? And not judging your answer one way or the other. Dred Scott was also one of the ones who raised the lawsuit, which basically says you can burn the American flag. It is within your First Amendment right to do so. That is free speech, and the United States government cannot force you to be patriotic, which I think is very important. But to challenge, to those of you who watch the TED Talk, this is going to be, you already know the answers, but to challenge our thoughts on the American flag, I wanted to show this. The flag code is the body of rules that we use to, think about what we can and can't do with the flag. Is this flag correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Yes, that is correct. The upper, the canton, the blue part with the stars, always should be in the top left. No matter which orientation it is hanging or flying, it always needs to be in the upper left. So to me, this is wrong. Like, I bought a flag once, it has a tag on it. To hang it on my wall like this, I had to flip it over and show the backside with the tag hanging, and I was like, this just looks wrong. But that's correct. So very good. A flag like this, we've all seen this, but the flag code says the flag should never be carried flat or horizontally. So this completely breaks the flag code under the section that says respect for the flag. So as people were getting very mad at Colin Kaepernick for kneeling during the national anthem, saying that disrespected the flag, this was right behind him actually breaking the respect for the flag rules. This is Texas A&M where I used to work, but yeah, it says no part of the flag should ever be used as part of a costume or an athletic uniform, yet every team in the country, in every league, does this. So we break the flag code all the time. I mean, every day. But nobody really cares about those ones. They care about the ones they want to care about.
Michael, doesn't all go back to the First Amendment?
Exactly. It's the First Amendment. And I think that's beautiful about the United States, that we can have a diverse view of our nation and our symbols of our nation, and we're free to do so, right? And I think a lot of those who fought and served would agree that they're fighting for the freedoms to do whatever. So yeah, our flag is incredible. It is the flag that has changed the most in the modern world. It's changed quite a few times as we have added states to the Union. And I think it's incredible that it was designed that way. It was made to change and grow with us. And I think that's really what makes the American flag very beautiful to me, is that it had the future in mind. It had change in mind. It had acceptance and new stuff. I mean, it was thinking towards the future. And when I see the American flag, I think of it as a very progressive symbol in that way. Whereas when you look at like the French flag, it harkens back to the French Revolution and hasn't changed much since. So now, how are we doing on time? 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's chat about this real quick. Actually, let me do this real quick. This is one of my favorites. This is the flag of planet Earth, designed by my friend Oscar Pernefeld in 2015. And as I kind of cycle through these images, what this does to me is like the feelings we have for the United States are fantastic. But what if we just took it a step further? And what if we felt the same passion and pageantry for all of us, the planet, right? And as we go to Mars, why not put a flag of Earth there instead of a nation flag? Because in the end, it is a global achievement of our species to do something like go to another planet. Okay, so that was just me being a nerd. All right, so this is where I really want to get into identity, because as we showed the Indianapolis flag and the Indiana flag and the American flag, what I think is interesting, maybe your brain's already doing it, is you're kind of ranking your identity from hyper-local to national. And I think most of us follow this sort of structure here, to where, here's an example. So if I lived in Denver, Colorado, I might be a Colorado Avalanche fan. But if they have a bad year, or maybe I don't like hockey anymore, that doesn't matter so much. But I am proud of Denver. But of course, I'm gonna have a beer with somebody from Fort Collins. We're proud to be from Colorado. And then of course, in a war or World Cup, we're all proud to be Americans, even though I don't like Wyoming. But we can come together as a nation when we need to. So this flows naturally as I think you can understand. And so I think when it comes to design, if you start applying design to this structure, it gets very interesting. So you have states that have great flags. I did not put Indiana on here. Their sports teams that fall below them all kind of use the state branding and imagery from the thing above, because they're calling upon the pride that you have for the larger entity, bringing it down to the lower ones. Because I know, all of you, I'm sure, like sports in some way. And so I think applying flags to branding is always fascinating. We'll use Illinois, for example. They have a problem in Illinois. Their state flag kind of sucks. Their city flag in Chicago, the best. And so you see that like the Chicago Red Stars, they use the city branding. And there's just this kind of identity void left in the middle here. I think it's best illustrated by New York. New York, their flag of the city, of New York City, and the state, both are awful. And you've probably never seen either of them. Somebody I knew lived in New York, had never seen the New York flag the entire time they lived there. And you could go visit New York City, you'll never see this flag. So if you're a proud New Yorker, what are you gonna get tattooed on you if you are wanting to show off, express your identity for being from New York? You might get a Yankees logo, right? You might get I Heart New York, or a Statue of Liberty, or any one of these things, because there is no one unified symbol for New York. And that, to me, is an opportunity, right, for New York City and state to gain their own identity and own that and provide that to their citizens. Utah just did this. We're seeing a big wave of redesigns of cities and states because they're seeing the opportunity to, if we had a good flag, we could have that symbol where people can be more engaged civically because they have that rallying symbol. So I'm going to end with this. A question to you. What level is your identity most found in? Because I do believe that we are in the midst of one of the largest shifts of human identity that humans have ever experienced. As an example, I moved here to Indianapolis. Most of you in this room can remember a time where when you lived in Indianapolis, your neighbors, they're very similar to you, right? You watch the same TV shows because when you turn on the channel, everybody's got the same thing on that time on that channel. You go to the same grocery store. You watch the same weatherman, right? Your life experience with your neighbors was very similar. And so your sense of unity makes sense because your lived experience was very similar. Nowadays, I could work for a company across the country. I could work remotely from my house. When I turn on the TV, I watch whatever I want. Doesn't matter what's on, I pick it. I don't go to the grocery store, I have my groceries delivered. So my life experience living in Indianapolis could be diametrically different than my neighbor. I could have never met him. We could not speak the same language. So I think the shift that we're seeing now is that humans are hyper-mobile and we're hyper-connected. So, and those two things I think are good, and I'll explain why. Hyper-mobile meaning like me going and working a new job in a new state, that's not odd, that's expected nowadays. Going to college in a different state, of course, why not? A lot of us have moved from where we grew up. And so that's kind of, okay, where do you belong? Am I a Hoosier? I don't know, but we're hyper-connected is the flip side of that coin. So I think nowadays, I can come home, my community, my friend group, who I hang out with, can be completely digital and they can be all over the world. And what we're finding is people are not just stuck with their community, their family that they were born into. We are now having more chosen community. So you can find a friend group that has your life experience, whether that's your religion, whether that's I just was diagnosed with an illness and now I can find a group of people who also have that illness and we can talk about our experience and support each other. Like that stuff didn't happen 50 plus years ago with the internet. And so I think we're starting to see that the lived experiences of humans are becoming very niche and less tied to where they are. And so, my prediction is that city flags and state flags, yes, they're starting to get redesigns and that's fantastic, but I think we're going to start seeing less and less of people's identity being rooted in cities, in states, even nations. And they're going to start flying more flags of bioregions, of sexual identities, of lived experience, of race, of everything that comes with your lived experience. And that is going to be a very interesting shift. I think we're going to see a lot more flags when you drive around. They're not just going to be American flags. It's going to be all kinds of things because people's identities are less and less rooted in those traditional things. So, yeah, I hope to see that. And now I will take any questions you have. Thanks so much.
I've already seen that. It's a privilege to have you give us your TED Talk. I want issues like climate or other issues, political. I think you're right. You're going to see more and more as we have, although we've always been there.
Yeah.
Can you differentiate between a seal of a state like we have?
Yep.
With the buffalo and a flag, and why aren't they similar?
Sure.
Why aren't they the same?
So seals, they have their purpose. Traditionally go all the way back. They were like a signet ring that you would seal a letter with, and it had your symbol. But when you have a seal, it's meant to be seen about this far away. And so it can be very detailed. It can have words and ornate things in it. When you take something that's meant to be looked at this far away and you put it on a flag and you put it on a pole, it doesn't function. Like literally the design breaks down. And so seals have a purpose, and they have a place on official documents, on diplomas, things like that. But they just don't belong on a piece of cloth flying in the wind 100 yards away. And so I think they've gotten confused because, you know, a lot of states, when they were like becoming a state, they were just like, well, we already have a seal, so just throw it on a piece of cloth. We'll go, you know, we have more important things to do as we're becoming a state. And that's been their flag ever since. So just now we're starting to see states kind of rethink those flags that we call SOBs, or seals on bed sheets. They're you know, Utah just changed theirs. Illinois they're looking at redesigning theirs. Minnesota's looking at redesigning theirs. Massachusetts. And Mississippi changed theirs for another reason, because they had the Confederate battle flag on there. But they screwed up the whole thing, and they were like, we have to have words on this new flag, and so they took a step up, but it's still not a great flag. Yeah.
It looked like the flag on the moon,
Mm-hmm.
looked like it had the blue stars on the right side rather than the left.
Yeah, I think maybe that was just the direction of the photo.
Looking at it a different way.
Yeah, I think it was just the way where the person was taking the photo is just, that's the way it was facing. Fascinating. The flags on the moon are fascinating because they had to have a wire across the top because there's no wind to make it blow. And then a lot of people wonder if they are just white now because of the UV. There's nothing blocking UV rays, so they could be completely bleached and white flags on the moon now. But we don't know because this is how deep of a nerd I am. I went to the World Flag Conference. We talked to a fabric expert, and she said because there's no oxygen there, it's the UV and the oxygen that does the bleaching. And so she's like, could be bleached, but we truly don't know. We'll have to go find out.
We have surrendered, correct?
Correct. to the moon people, yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about where you get your ideas for flags and products. And I'll relate this to my experience discovering your company. So when the United States decided to make Juneteenth a national holiday, I thought, well, there probably is a flag for that. And so I got on my computer and I searched, and sure enough, there was a flag. And I decided to order one. I ordered one for myself and my daughter, and actually the whole school board in Fishers.
It was a good day of sales.
But you know, and you know, I received it from your company, drop shipped right to my house in this cool packaging. And then later on, I did a second order, and I discovered that you were here in Indianapolis. I had no idea. I really didn't know where you were. But talk about how the internet has impacted your business and how you collect ideas for new flags and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we truly are. We started in 2020. We're an online. I don't have a storefront. We're in over 400 stores carry our flags like Silver in the City, Tuggles around the city. You can find them. But I started this as a flag company I would want to buy from because one thing I didn't mention earlier was, you know, when I was buying, like, I was looking for a Black Lives Matter flag or a Juneteenth flag was a great example. If you're gonna buy a Juneteenth flag, if the same company sells a Confederate flag, those two things are like actually at odds. And so it always, I think maybe it's just a millennial in me, but like it always felt wrong to support companies that didn't care. They just sold whatever because they were gonna make money. And I was just like, no, I'm gonna make a company where we take a stand on these things. And yes, I'm gonna lose sales. I mean, I'd be a millionaire on a yacht if I sold Trump flags by this point. But I figured, no, I'm just gonna make it the way I wanted to. So the internet is the only reason we still exist. TikTok is the only reason we still exist. I went viral on TikTok a few times just talking about flags. You know, so millions and millions of people were exposed to Flags for Good for free took me no money to make that video. But yeah, how I get new ideas, I mean, a lot of times nowadays, it's really great. When Ukraine was invaded, unfortunately, I was like, well, this won't take long, so there's no point in me making flags, because, you know, they're gonna just get steamrolled by Russia. But immediately people started emailing us and were like, hey, I would like a Ukraine flag, and I noticed you don't sell them. We'd like to buy one from you because we know you're gonna give a portion to whatever. So people started looking to us not only for Ukraine flags, but for a way to respond to world events and trusting Flags for Good to do the research of where should this money go, how can we do the most good. And that's where I was so surprised. I was like, wow, we've built an audience of people who want to do good in the world, and they're looking to us for not only the way that they can like visually respond, but also to donate money. So a lot of times it's just responding to world events. A lot of times it's customers emailing in saying, hey, I'm deaf and there's a new deaf flag. I would love to have it. I'm like, heck yeah, that's awesome. So yeah.
So corporations have logos.
Yeah.
And they put them on pieces of material, flags, etc.
Yeah.
Do you consider governmental flags logos, and are they different by definition? Are they the same? They can all be marketed?
Yeah. That's
Any thoughts?
a fascinating question, because what you're kind of asking is, what is a government? Is it something that needs to be marketed? We don't really have a choice to whether to pay our taxes, right? So, you know, it's kind of the juxtaposition of, they want us to like the government and to be proud of where we are. And so to provide symbols to do that behooves the government. That's why the Pledge of Allegiance exists. That's why all of the pageantry, that's why we play the national anthem. It's because they're trying to keep the fabric of this country and the unity we feel together, right? All of flags and anthems, all of that stuff is just a way for governments to not assert control so much, but kind of to remind us of that is where we are and that's who we're under, and they'd rather us be proud of it than to, you know, defy it, right?
My second question
Yeah.
is, how do you determine where you're going to donate money
Yeah.
to these flags?
Yeah, so we do a lot of research. We have a great third party that like automatically takes the sale, takes the chunk out, donates it for us, because that's a whole, you know, compliance and blah, blah, blah. And they have a vetting process of the charities that they let in. And so we kind of rely on them to go, okay, we have a new flag for this cause. What charities are already, you know, vetted by y'all that might fit this cause? And we take suggestions from people, and we've kicked some people out because we've selected them, and people have been like, hey, this organization actually does this, 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 and this, and blah, blah, blah. So we try to do our best, and we're always changing how we keep engaging.
So when someone buys a flag, do you put in there a flyer that says, and the portion that's being donated is donated to this not-for-profit or this?
Actually, it's even better than that. So when you buy a flag on the website, there's a little box, and it says, you know, $1 of this flag is going to an organization that supports LGBTQ. Then you can go in, and there's like 10 of them in there. You can choose where you want it to go. So it's like, you want it to go to Indy Pride, you want it to go to Equality Texas, you know, you can choose that. And if you don't choose anything, it kind of just equally distributes it to everybody.
So how many flags have you made since the pandemic, you know, by year? So, and then the other question is, who makes them? Who actually sews them together?
Great question. I don't know that number. It's probably something I should know, but I'm still figuring out how to business. So definitely not a businessman. But I mean, in the tens of thousands or more. I mean, it's a lot, which is great. Right now, in terms of manufacturing, that's the whole other process. Again, I didn't know how to do any of this when I started. So what I found out very quickly is that there's two places that make flags. The United States, and those flags are upwards of $100 a piece, which is great. They're high quality, they're amazing. And then there's China, and then they make all the rest. And so I had to make an early on decision of, okay, who's my target audience? Is my target audience gonna pay $100 for a flag that they might take to a protest and it gets trashed? No. So right now our manufacturer's in China, and I found an incredible person that we love working with. but knowing that from the very beginning, that's not the ideal solution for many reasons, carbon and everything. So in our roadmap, we'd love to someday manufacture our own stuff. But I had to learn how to do that. So I'm still learning how to run a business right now. But yeah, that's in the roadmap right now.
So are your American flags made in China?
No. So the American flags we get from a very cool person who, all the American flags we sell are made out of recycled plastic bottles. So they're really cool, and they're made over in Ohio.
And what not-for-profits do you donate to when an American flag
Sure.
is purchased?
Yeah, so with all of the American flags, all the state flags, and all the city flags, anything that geographically is in the United States, we donate to indigenous charities.
To what?
Indigenous charities, like Native American charities. Because all this was theirs first, so we try to give back in that way.
The Ukrainian flags, you're getting those out of China also?
Yes.
But you have no stores, so if somebody orders them.
Yeah, we hold inventory here, so yeah, you don't have to wait. We have them over there in 16 tech, so if you buy anything, it'll be to your door in a day or two.
Thought I saw your flag over there.
Yeah.
Was there?
Yeah.
Should have stopped by. and
That's
said
the
hi.
office, yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
Of course.
Okay, one more.
One more.
Yeah.
This, you'll think me a nerd after this one. On the American flag, the space for the stars is flexible.
Mm-hmm.
The stripes have stayed steady.
Yeah.
Was there a decision to do that?
Yeah, so actually, in the beginning, it was 13 stripes and they had the Union in there. And then when they started putting stars in there was no set anything. So they started adding stars and stripes. And then at some point they were like, this is way too many stripes. So they were like, no, 13, but keep going with the stars. But again, there was still no set, here's the orientation of the stars. So people were just willy-nilly. And I mean, they were making them by hand by then. So like, they were crazy. By the way, Betsy Ross' story, complete lie. She did not design the American flag. That's another little tidbit I like to drop. But
What else
yeah.
have we been lied to about?
I don't know.
Many things.
Francis Hopkinson probably designed the American flag because he billed Congress for it, and he billed them a cask of beer, and Congress never paid him. So that's the history of the American flag. But yeah, so at some point, I don't remember when, they were like, all right, we're going to standardize this, 13 stripes, and then as the stars came in, they decide what the orientation is. So there already is.
After a while, it would be hard to decipher. Is it red or is it white?
Yep.
Solid. From a
Right.
distance.
But they already have the 51 and 52 ready to go.
Oh,
Cool,
So,
good.
yeah.
Come on, Puerto.
Although 50 is just a good number, you know, it's like, it's going to be hard to change from 50, but
So if we want to order something, go to Flags for Good.
flagsforgood.com. And we do have 51 stars. If you are a supporter of Puerto Rico, we already have them. Got ahead of it.
From place parties.
Yeah.
Pushing DC.
I am so happy. I've been nerding out on his YouTubes and his TikToks and all of this for so long, and then I finally got up the courage to go, you have to join us. Please
Thank you
come
so
nerd
much.
out with me.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched his YouTubes, I think the first one that really caught my eye was when you deconstructed Chicago and explained
Yeah.
what all of the stars were, and I think you took a field trip to Chicago and went
Yeah.
to different landmarks. And
It was very cold.
It was not the best choice of time.
Nope. Not
But,
smart.
No, very, very much appreciate you sharing all of this with us and challenging our thinking.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, a certificate of appreciation.
Thank
But
you.
more importantly, a donation will be made in your honor to New Shoe Day. They're on a mission to uplift the world's well-being. They focus on children's mental health, largely in Indianapolis, and then spreading out from there. They plan to provide 2,500 New Shoe Days to Central Indiana youth in under-resourced communities and empower them to move, play, and make friends like kids should.
That's great.
So,
Thank you.
thank
yeah.
you very much.
Thanks for having me out. Thank you.
We will be back here next Thursday. Don't forget, strawberries on your way in. support all of the good charities. And with that, meeting adjourned.
Can you give Haley a certificate as well?
Oh, yes.
I have 4 tickets for tonight's Indians game, if anybody would like to use them. They won last night, 13-1. They're on a roll. Whoa. Be a beautiful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
And Haley, as a thank you for your visit, we also have a certificate of appreciation for you.
Yes.
There you go.